Hello, we are about to tell a story with our special guest, Tahoe Tessie. Tessie, the green monster, a spectacular monster from Lake Tahoe. We're about to tell a story right now called The Story of Tahoe Tessie. The original Tahoe monster, written by Bob McCormick. You see on my screen right now, there's the book. Well, let's begin. Here we go. Once upon a time, about 25 million years ago, to be more exact, there was a big upheaval in the earth and the Sierra Nevada mountains were created. A huge valley formed between the mountains that rose all around it, and later filled with water to become one of the deepest and most beautiful lakes in the world. It will one day be known as Lake Tahoe. Many creatures lived happily at the big lake for a long, long time. Then lava from volcanic eruptions in the surrounding peaks dammed the valley between what is now Tahoe City and Truckee. The water got deeper and peace returned to the lake valley. Among the many creatures trapped in the lake's basin was a large family of dinosaurs. They were very peaceful and did not bother the other animals. Since they only ate water plants, they did not mind having to stay in such a beautiful place. Alas, over the years, the water plants disappeared, and so did the dinosaurs. All except one. She had found an underwater spring that nourished a very hardy type of water plant called algae. She thought it was delicious. There was always enough food for her and her friends. The spring was in a large underwater cavern that had a big air pocket. There were some nice big flat rocks that the little dinosaur found comfortable to lie down on. It was dark and quiet, and she made it her home. The cavern was under a very tall rock which sat on the east shore of the big lake. There was a large cave in the rock that was used by Indians for ceremonies and shelter on their hunting trips. Sometimes the Indians would see the dinosaur from their cave as she swam and stunned herself near her home. They called her the monster and considered her to be scared. This made their cave rock very special to them. The Indians and the monster shared the beautiful lake in peace. Then one day, a group of white men led by Captain John C. Fremont saw the big lake from far away. Soon the Indians and the monster would have to share their beloved lake with many white men, and their peace would be shattered. Many years later, the Comstock lode of silver was discovered in nearby Virginia City. The little monster watched a flood of men pass through the lake's basin on their way to the mines. but she stayed out of sight. Unlike the Indians would move to warmer places when winter came, the white men stayed at the lake all year long. The little monster liked to watch them play in the snow. The need for timber to build houses and mine shafts in Virginia City grew. The men built a dam across the mouth of the Truckee River, the only outlet of Lake Tahoe, as the lake was now called, to make the lake's water level rise. This made it easier to float logs down the river to sawmills. So many trees were cut down in the lake's basin over the years that many of the slopes were bare. An ingenious railway called the Great Incline was built on the lake's east shore to move more and more lumber up and over the slopes to Virginia City's blooming community. As time went on, man's presence became more permanent, although many steam launches kept busy towing logs across the lake. Even larger boats were built to transport visitors to resorts that dotted the shores. Many beautiful summer homes were built along the lake's edge. The little monster swam quietly through the years, watching from afar and minding her own business. To complete a section of road across the east shore, the men blasted a tunnel through the cave rock that has once sheltered the Indians on their hunting trips. They did not know that the monster lived in a smaller cave directly below them. The loud dynamite blasts really annoyed the little monster. For years she had left the men alone, as they had cut down the trees, polluted her lake, and put up buildings on many of her favorite spots. Why couldn't they leave her alone in their own home? There were other things the men did that she couldn't understand. One night, she watched as they sank the SS Tahoe, the biggest, nicest boat on the lake. Many times she had followed the elegant vessel as it cruised with a happy crowd of tourists, and now it was gone. Then one day, a new big boat, the MS Dixie, came to the lake. The little monster and her fish friends enjoyed many fun times body surfing in the wake made by the boat's big paddle wheels. Even the seagulls were her friends, then always had nice visits together. While playing tag one day, the fun-loving monster got stuck in some old tires that man had dumped in the lake. While her pals, the beavers, were freeing her, she had an idea for using the tires. With her new toy, she began playing tricks on people. She would often suddenly pop the tires up out of the water and scare boaters and fishermen. It was fun to listen to the startled victims of her pranks. describe in exact detail the huge Tahoe monster that they thought they had just seen. One day, while sunning herself on some rocks, she overheard some passing boaters discussing the monster, whom all the people were calling Tahoe Tessie. She had never had a name before, and even though she knew all the people were talking about her toy, she decided that Tessie was just right name for her. A few days later, Tahoe Tessie was out for a swim when she heard a commotion. A boat had turned over and one of the little people was struggling in the water. She knew he would drown if she didn't help him, so she swam to the rescue. This was the first time that Tessie had such close contact with a person. He was small and very wet, but he didn't seem so bad after all. And he knew that she wasn't bad either. Hadn't she just saved her life? The next day, the little boy, whose name was Kevin, brought his gang to the dock to meet his new friend. The other children include his little brother Casey, Sarah, Amanda, and Tim. Even his dog Rusty came along. Tessie felt a little shy, but liked them all. But some nearby fishermen spotted her. It was the first time she let men really get a good look at her. Before long, a famous big game hunter, Whiplash McMean, attracted by the growing legend of the Tahoe monster, came to Lake Tahoe and offered a big reward for her capture. He wanted to take her around the world in his carnival and make a fortune displaying her to eager crowds. Soon, a horde of bounty hunters, greedy for the reward money, were crisscrossing the lake in their sleepboats with nets and hooks, always trying to catch the poor little monster. Tahoe Tessie's life became a constant struggle to avoid capture. One time she actually became trapped, but her friends, the crayfish, chewed up the net with their claws and helped her escape. She was getting very tired of being chased by all these people. There was never any time to play anymore, enjoy a quiet meal of algae, or even to rest. She was telling the children of her troubles one morning when Kevin had an idea to help her. In his geography class, Kevin had heard of a faraway place called Scotland, where they had other deep lakes and really know how to treat a monster. So the gang built a big comfortable crate for Tessie and dragged it to the post office. Just as she was about to make a clean getaway, she heard the loud slap of a beaver's tail, an urgent call for help. Of course, a call for help from friends cannot be ignored, so they all went back to the beach. Then the beavers told Tessie of a great disaster about to happen to all the people on the Truckee River. The dam had developed a big crack, then the people could see, and a violent storm was coming that night. Even though the men had begun trying to catch her, Tessie knew that she couldn't just stand by. She was the only creature in the lake big and strong enough to save the people. She quickly swam to the rescue. Her escape would have to wait. All through the night, as the storm raged, Tahoe Tessie and her friends worked feverishly to fix the dam. Meanwhile, Kevin dragged Jim, the editor of the local newspaper, down to the dam in the rain and wind, just as the weary Tessie was slapping the last bit of mud on the completed repair job. A bright light flashed in her face. Tessie was a heroine. News of her action spread like wildfire. The monster hunt was called off, and a ceremony was held to honor her. A top government official gave her the key to the basin and proclaimed her the first citizen of Lake Tahoe. Kevin and Casey, bursting with pride for their big friend, were among those that gathered to congratulate her. Only one man was not happy for Tahoe Tessie. Whiplash McMean, foiled by this turn of events in his effort to capture and exploit the little monster, was determined to return one day when the excitement died down and carried out his dastardly plot. But that's another story. And so, dear readers, peace and quiet returned to Tahoe Tessie's life. Now, she was a friend to the people as well as all the creatures of the lake. She could come and go and she pleased. After all those years, life was certainly become more interesting. And that is the end of our story about Tahoe Tessie by Bob McCormick. I would like to give Tessie one more hug, as Tessie will be my new best friend in the future. Whomever we go to Lake Tahoe with, you can always make new friends like Tessie as well, or other new characters. So stick around. We'll see you in your next experience. Goodbye.